It's time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Indeed it does, and great to have you with us on this Wednesday edition of the show. We got plenty to talk about over the next 60 minutes, including some NHL playoff action. First piece of adversity for the Washington Capitals. We'll get to that. Some bad news for the Toronto Maple Leafs to talk about as well. A trade in the NFL. I know, there's actually NFL news to get to as a trade is made. The Dallas Cowboys trying to improve themselves at the wide receiver position. Something about to go extinct in Major League Baseball. We'll talk about that as well. But we start things out in the NBA, and that means it's a Wednesday, and Kurt Helin of Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com hangs out with us. And Kurt, what the hell? Are we living in like the bizarro world, or something's been turned upside down? All the top seeds losing games. Like, what is going on here? Well, I mean, we'll get to the most recent and sort of work our way back, but we had a wild finish with the Cavaliers and the Pacers, and what felt like it had to be a must-win for Cleveland, down 0-1. And it looked like they were kind of in command and ready to take this game and get the win and get the split at home and get this thing to Indiana at 1-1. And then all of a sudden you turn around and Tyrese Halliburton's hitting some prayer of a shot at the buzzer. And now Indiana's up 2-0 going back to Indianapolis. And boy, Cleveland is certainly on the ropes here.
Yeah, they're at the top of my panic list that I wrote about today at NBC Sports. Like, they are. If you're a Cleveland Cavaliers fan, you've got to be worried. And frankly, it's not just that you're down 0-2 and now have to win at least a couple on the road. It's the injuries. I mean, how much Darius Garland means to this team when the Pacers were a better defensive team second half of the year. Not quite a top 10 team, but they were good. They've just, hey, we're going to pressure you. We're going to make you get slow into your offense. And without Darius Garland there, and putting all this on Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell understood the assignment. He just wore down with 48 points, but 2 of 6 in the fourth quarter. And you're like, well, all right, well, everybody else stepped up. No, the rest of the team, I think, was at 3 of 12 shooting in the fourth. Like, somebody else had to step up. Ty Jerome hasn't been there. And with the injuries, without Mobley, without Garland, they're just not the same team. Now, even if they get everybody healthy, it's probably Indiana. But you've got to, I mean, Darius Garland's got to be not just back, Jason, right? Like, he's got to be back. Like, they desperately miss him.
Yeah, and they're not going to have there's not any time to sort of like get back into it if you're Darius Garland here. You've got to come back and be peak Darius Garland. I just don't see that.
No, that and Evan Mobley both being out. I thought Jared Allen with 22 points and then 12 boards. Like, he played as well as he was going to, but Mobley as a shot creator is part of what separated the Cavaliers from everybody else last year. Is they had the third guy. They had the big wing who could do that. When it fell back to Donovan Mitchell against the world, that's not good enough against a good Pacers team, and they just wore down. The Cavaliers have got to feel bad. That was a gut punch loss. They had that one, gave up the 8-0 run in the final minute, and just too many mistakes by the other guys. But now they're in a real, I mean, that's a real deep problem that even if they're playing at their best, they might be able to force a game 7. And I'd look, that's not where I'd bet right now. Like, I just don't.
Real quick, because there's a ton of series to get to here, but let's just say worst case scenario, they get bounced in the conference semis. Do you simply pin it on the injuries here? I mean, how do you turn around? I hate to have to do this because they're only down 2-0 and the series isn't over, but by the time you come back on this show next week, the series could be over.
Could, probably should if you're Indiana. You're going home. You've got to go into that game 3, like, close this thing out, put it away. I don't know that you do much. I think, look, man, you won 64 games. You've got all this balance. You can say it's the injuries, and you went and got Hunter to give yourself depth. Struth has frankly played pretty well on the way. Like, all the pieces are there. I think you just run it back and hope for better luck in the postseason. But I think it does raise the can they really do it in the playoffs question, is at least hanging out there, because that loss yesterday, again, you've just got to be able to hang on up 7 with 50 seconds to go.
Yeah, and they were unable to do so. Let's talk about the Warriors situation, because the good news is they go on the road in game 1 and beat Minnesota. The bad news is they may not have Stephen Curry for the remainder of this series. And who knows how long, depending on whether this is a grade 1 hamstring strain, if it's grade 2. By the time this show airs, depending on where you're watching us and when, we probably will know that information. At the very least, he's not playing in game 2, which is obviously good news for the Timberwolves, bad news for the Warriors. Where are you going when you look at this series and sort of the way it plays out with at least no Curry in game 2, but at the same time, a T-Wolves team that looked awful in game 1. You got Chris Finch calling out his superstar in Anthony Edwards. How does that play into the remainder of this series? Go.
I think Finch knows Edwards enough to know that that was the button to push, right? Like that. This is a guy who wants to be thought of as a top 5 player in the world, as one of the future face of the league kind of guys. Well, this is where you make that money. This is where you get to be that guy. And he's not only look, he had 2 rough games. He had a rough game. They didn't really have a great offensive outing in game 5 against the Lakers. It's just they'd figured out how to dominate the Lakers by the end of that series with their defense. Their offense was dreadful in game 1, and it's got to bounce back in game 2. They can't look, digging that hole to the Indiana Pacers with the Cavaliers is bad. You do not want to dig the hole with the Warriors, and Jimmy Butler's still there, and Draymond Green hitting Draymond Green's hitting threes. That's when you know you're just in trouble. But Anthony Edwards sets the tone. I mean, he's the best player he's supposed to be the best player in the series. He's certainly the best player on this team. And if you start 0 of 10 and have 1 point in the first half and you're just flat, everybody's going to be flat. And they never got out of it. They just never fully came around until you started to see a spark of life too late.
There's no way the Warriors can win this series if Curry's out the rest of the series, though, is there?
I'll be honest with you. I don't think they win the series if Curry's could come back next game. Look, I still think Minnesota's the better team. I picked them, frankly, in 5. I thought they'd kind of rolled them. They had a horrible first game, but I think they're one of those teams where, and we can talk about this with Oklahoma City later at some point, what did you learn? What are you learning? Are you able? This is where you have to take that next step as a team. They kind of did it against the Lakers. Can they do it in this series? Can they come back? And again, if you don't have Curry, you should be able to hold the Warriors to under 100 points every night. And then you got to find some offense.
Yeah, and there's gonna be a lot of onus on Jimmy Butler.
Oh yeah. Look, you're gonna need playoff Jimmy to steal you a game. Now you got 2, and now you're in 6, and you can start to fudge your way through this thing if you can drag it out long enough. But like you said, if this is just a grade 1 sprain, that's a minimum of a week. Yeah. Minimum, more like 10 to 12 days.
We're hanging out with Kurt Helin, Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. We'll come back. 2 other series to get to as we do the NBA playoff talk. All right, this Wednesday edition of Sports Wrap continues, and so does the conversation around the NBA playoffs with Kurt Helin of Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. If you had bet the Knicks, I'm telling you, you'd be able to retire. If you had bet the Knicks, the Nuggets, the Warriors, and the Pacers all to win game 1, I can't even imagine. Just on the money lines, you'd probably be able to retire. You put like $100 on the 4 of them. Yeah. Oh my God. At the very least, you'd be able to take a nice vacation somewhere. I mean, it's crazy.
By the way, I thoroughly enjoyed the Jimmy Butler throwback Minnesota experience, where it's like 2018 again, and he's showing up to practice and grabbing the scrubs and beating the starters and talking smack the whole time. Like that. I thoroughly enjoyed that moment, probably more than the Timberwolves did. Yes.
All right, let's talk about this Knicks Celtics series, because when I have to be the voice of reason. Seriously, if I have to be the voice of reason when it comes to talking about the Knicks and Celtics, something's seriously wrong. We were in a group chat with our friend Vlad the other night after the Knicks won this game. And Vlad, of course, was all, oh my God, this series, the Knicks, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, look, everybody pump the brakes. The Celtics missed 45 threes. They shot 35% from the field in the game. They blew a 20-point lead. They shot, 35% from the field. The Knicks were terrible from the free throw line. You had Karl Anthony Towns in foul trouble. And they still only won by 3 points in overtime at the end of the day. That is not a formula for success to win this series. I cannot take anything from this game and say the Knicks are going to win the series. Do I think it's going to be competitive? Yes. Do I think it's going to go deep? Do I think the Knicks win at least one more game? Yes. But the Knicks aren't beating the Celtics.
It's a big ask because, like you said, that's not the Celtics you're going to get next game. They're going to, they're going to hit some shots. You're going to get them actually maybe getting downhill and getting into the paint and then kicking out to threes and not taking, although those looks were open, man. They missed a lot of open looks. I don't think you get that luck. But I think if you're the Knicks, you're starting to think, hey, we won one. We get this, and we get a game close and keep it tight late. Boston's execution down the stretch hasn't been great. They're not the same team without Porzingis out there. They don't really threaten Towns quite the same way without Porzingis out there. You get a game late, you've got Brunson, you've got a puncher's chance in every one of those games, and maybe you steal one, maybe you steal two, and suddenly you're in a game set. Like, you can try to talk yourself into it, but I don't have Boston really high on the panic level yet. They got to win game two and start to look like themselves again, but I'm not willing to go there yet.
What's insane? Celtics favored by 10.5. We'll get to the Thunder in a second. They're favored by 10.5 tonight, and the Timberwolves are favored by 10 in game two. Tells you all you need to know about what Vegas thinks about game two of all of these series right now.
The Timberwolves thing, to be fair, if Curry's healthy, that's a different number.
Yeah, and he's not going to play game two at the very least.
But that skews the number because now they're going to come out with Anthony Edwards should come out on fire.
Is there anything that tells you the Celtics would do anything different in game two? Well, that they would take less threes? Or do you think they double down and come out and take 70 threes in the next game?
After the game, Joe Mazzulla was asked point blank about his team's shot selection. He says, I'm pretty good with it. Like, I was fine with the shots. We just didn't hit them. That's who they are. That's what they've been all season. And that just leads to variance and some even leads they didn't lose the game, but they were up 17 and had to struggle for it at the end because when you live by that three, man, we know the result. Like, it's just some days that's great and some days it goes cold.
Yeah, it certainly does. All right. Where do you put Oklahoma City on the panic meter, Kurt Helin, after the loss in game one? Chet Holmgren misses a couple of free throws late, and then you get the miracle shot from Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon doing his best Robert Horry impersonation in this postseason, and all of a sudden the Nuggets are up 1-0 and playing with house money in game two.
I'm not that panicked yet, but here's the key, and this is something you and I have talked about. I wrote going into the season or into the playoffs. Chet was fine. I mean, he had 33. They make life difficult for him. They tried to make him play in a crowd. They were, the way they defended him and with the zone, everything. We're going to make life difficult for him. Jalen Williams can't be 5 of 20. Chet Holmgren not just missed free throws. I mean, blown dunks, some really messed up plays at the end. Look, you've got to have your number 2 and 3 guy be very good to win once you get to the second round of the playoffs. And this is it. This is the bet. The bet is that those guys can be part of a championship level team. They did not show it in game one. I think they come back and have a monster game two, and I think they win the series comfortably. But the pressure's on them now. Like, there's no more hiding. It's J-Dub and Chet have to be better. Flat out must be.
I know this is a difficult question for you to answer, and it's probably best suited for, and this is no offense to you, and no offense to myself, it's probably a question best suited for guys who have played in this situation. How much of this is because of the layoffs these teams have had?
That's a really good question. I wonder if finishing them off early, rust versus rest, that maybe there was a little rust. Maybe there was a little, it's a little fluky for all four of them, but that is the one common denominator. Right, is that they had all this time off and they came out a little cold at home.
Yeah, I mean that's the one thing that I'm kind of wondering about, and I wonder if something's clicked here with the Nuggets. By the way, has Adelman basically won that coaching job now?
Yeah, can you imagine them going somewhere else now after these upsets?
I don't know. I couldn't have imagined them firing the head coach who took them to a title 2 years ago.
Yeah, and it's by the way, it's always an awkward situation if you're going to hire a GM to hey, here's the coach. You come in and work around him. That's not how most GMs like to operate. They want their guy in there. So that said, I can't imagine them making this change now that they've played this well, and that at the end of the day, Jokic is comfortable with him, and that's what makes a decision.
Two quick things on the coaching front. I forgot about Jeff Van Gundy being an assistant with the Clippers until I was watching that series and seeing him there on the sideline and what he did for that defense. Is he going to be a head coach in the league next year?
Probably not. At least not next year. I have not heard his name coming up in those conversations yet. And there's really probably only going to be, Phoenix job is open. I don't know do you want that? Jeff can be kind of picky. He's in a really good spot working with Ty Lue in an organization that treats its coaches and players very well now under Steve Ballmer. So I don't think in the short term, but there probably will come a day where an owner is interested and the situation's right. The idea of him back on the sidelines, he was with Team USA. He was fantastic with that Clippers defense. And if you were at Clippers games, by the way, that was him. He was as vocal, probably more vocal than Ty, who's not the most vocal of coaches, yelling out stuff during game.
Kurt Helin, Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. Check out his panic meter for the playoffs. Always appreciate you, my friend. Welcome back to the show. Continue the conversation, and we switch gears to the NFL because there was big NFL news. I woke up on Wednesday morning to a text from Sam Yarnell, which is never good news. The text said, "Are we leading off with George Pickens?" No, we're not leading off with George Pickens. What, because the Dallas Cowboys traded for George Pickens, Sam Yarnell? That's why we're going to lead off with George Pickens, who had 50 catches for 900 yards or something like that last year. And it's a great move for the Cowboys. They get themselves a number 2 to CeeDee Lamb. They get Batman his Robin. And they do it for what, a 3rd round pick in 2026 and some like a 5th round pick or something like that. It's a great move for them. And look, the Cowboys are what the Cowboys are. I think it's just funny. I was just watching somebody yesterday talk about the fact that the Cowboys are coming into this season. As of yesterday, they were coming in, Sam, with I think the worst odds they had in like forever to win a Super Bowl. And now I guess those odds are a little bit better with the addition of George Pickens.
Yeah, so first of all, it should lead the show just because it is the top story on every major sports show today. But that said, this is a horrible move for the Cowboys, because when the Steelers trade away a wide receiver, specifically a name brand wide receiver, it is the kiss of death for that wide receiver's career. Recent examples, right? Chase Claypool, Antonio Brown, both traded away from the Steelers and fall off in terms of both of their careers. When the Steelers give up on a player who they draft and they develop and becomes a star for them, it speaks volumes towards what is going to happen in that player's career. And I think that speaks a lot towards how good the Steelers are at scouting and developing talent, as we've seen for generations at this point. And it's the reason they've had 3 coaches since the 1960s, like 1966 or something, since my parents were born. On the Cowboy side, I don't get this, man. You made the mistake last year with the Jonathan Mingo trade. Look at how that ended up. And you're just essentially, I'm not comparing George Pickens to Jonathan Mingo. Obviously, the compensation's a little different. You gave up a 5th then, you're giving up a 3rd now, but the writing is on the wall with George Pickens. A lot of people said, even when he was successful in Pittsburgh, that it was the only place where a guy with his attitude could be successful. Now you're going to put him in Dallas alongside Jerry Jones, with the ghost of Ezekiel Elliott still wandering the halls there in Jerry World. I don't think personally I'm all that convinced. Obviously this news broke very early on Wednesday morning, so yes. I had some time to do some digging and talking to some people. So I talked to someone in the NFL right now. I asked them what they thought about the move. Their response, It's going to be fun to watch. I asked whether they could specify whether they meant on the field or off the field. They would not go any further with that answer. I think that speaks volumes towards how the NFL kind of views George Pickens off the field. A former Steeler actually said, quote, "It feels like they're tanking. I know they're not because of other moves, but that's just the vibe you get based on where the Steelers are at now." So a confusing move for me, Jason, for a wide receiver that it really always felt like would only work out for one team, and a team that when they punt on wide receivers notoriously always wins.
I still feel like this. For all that you just said, can I be simple, man? Because that's what I do best. I'm simple, man. I'll simplify this. Anything that takes a little bit of attention and takes a little bit of the focus from the defense away from the only option that the Cowboys have had in the receiving game in CeeDee Lamb is a good thing for the Cowboys. It's a good thing for Dak Prescott. It's a good thing for the Cowboys. It's a good thing for that team. They needed somebody, anybody, a warm body. Oh, knocked my microphone. A warm body, Sam, would be an upgrade for them at number 2 compared to what they had. So to me, it's still a good move for the Cowboys. And you're giving up relatively little at the end of the day in exchange for a guy that, who knows, maybe if he's got one good year, if you get one good year, if you get the kind of production out of George Pickens that you were getting out of him in Pittsburgh, if you got 40 and 700, would you be happy with that?
Well, that's the other part of this, right? He has 1 year left on his contract. So, now you're dealing with a wide receiver who is notorious for being emotional on the field between the football lines. Now you're going to deal with him wanting a new contract while in Jerry World. Oh, and by the way, remember a few weeks ago, Jason Page, or maybe it was even more than that, at the owners' meetings when Jerry Jones was talking about the Micah Parsons contract discussions and said, we don't involve the agent. I don't even know who that agent is. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, that same agent, by the way, represents George Pickens, whose contract is up at the end of this year, who Jerry Jones just traded for. It's a mess in Dallas.
Can we ask one more question about this in the final minute and 30 we have left? What does this mean for the Steelers when it comes to Aaron Rodgers? What are you doing if you're Aaron Rodgers? You watch the Steelers make this move. Who are you throwing the football to if you go there? Pat Fryermuth? What are you doing if you're Aaron Rodgers now and you go and sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers? And now if you're Rodgers, the game of musical chairs, the music is ended, and there's only one seat left, and it's Pittsburgh. This is like Rodgers' worst nightmare. If he really did want to play in 2025, and the only option is a Steelers team where you're throwing to nobody,
DK Metcalf
and Pat Fryermuth. Wow. Talk about, the biggest loser in this news on Wednesday morning could be Aaron Rodgers.
So that same person who said that it would be fun to watch George Pickens in Dallas, I also got the idea from them, Jason, that you and I may be right in our original thinking that Aaron Rodgers may just be waiting for somebody to get injured until he signs with the team. I don't think he breaks camp with anybody.
I'm starting to fully agree with you. Because somebody will inevitably get hurt, and it could be somebody on a contender. It could have been a contender. And now I'm going to sign Aaron Rodgers. I don't know where, and I don't know what accent that was, but we'll have to wait and see. By the way, if you saw the lighting going wonky on my shot there during we had a bit of a lighting issue, but we fixed it. We're coming back. Much more to do. All right, coming up in 10 minutes, quick whip around baseball. And a thought on we live in an era in baseball where there aren't going to be many more milestones broken. And it got me thinking about one particular player who is taking part in the festivities of games on Tuesday night. We'll talk about that coming up in a bit. Sam Yarnell, I want to talk some hockey because there was some playoff hockey. on Wednesday. There'll be playoff action now until like the end of June, which is just the most wonderful thing about this time of the year. So I want to talk about the NHL Stanley Cup Playoffs. We had Dennis Bernstein on the show on Tuesday to talk about the pucks. And we talked about the Capitals. And you love talking about the Capitals as this team of destiny. I think the team we're going to talk about in just a couple of minutes might be the real team of destiny. But shift away from that and let's talk about the Capitals who fall at home. And I'll tell you, all the credit in the world to the Carolina Hurricanes, who, if I'm not mistaken, Dennis Bernstein on this show yesterday said he picked the Hurricanes to win this series against your beloved Washington Capitals. 2-1 the final in overtime. And, Carolina, it was just a barrage of offense, despite only being able to put 2 pucks in the net, 33 shots on goal, Sam, and able to get the win. And look, for the first time in this postseason, if you want to call it some adversity, the Capitals will face it as they drop a home game and lose home ice advantage in this series.
Yeah, so the Capitals played their worst game of the playoffs in this game, and you're right, Jason, their youth showed, and quite frankly, obviously, they had this game bagged. It was 1-0, and they were completely in control of the puck, controlling the entire flow of the game. 2 minutes to go, they make a careless error behind the net, give up the puck, tic-tac-toe, pucks in the back of the net. It's 1-1, and from that point on, with this young of a team, you kind of knew. You were watching it, and you knew they never had a hope. There was no shot that the Capitals were going to win, despite, as you mentioned, Logan Thompson standing on his head, and that's why I'll go back to this team being a team of destiny, because what matters in the playoffs, it is riding the hot goaltender, and Logan Thompson had 31 incredible saves last night for Washington in net. This is a young team. They've got a young coach, like we've talked about on the show with Dennis before, a coach that knows how to make adjustments, and when they played bad games during the regular season all season long, like they did last night, they constantly made the adjustments necessary. So I'm going to stick with the Capitals. I still like them in this series. I thought it was impressive that they were able to control the game as much as they did through 56 minutes of it, 55 minutes of it. And I think they're still a team of destiny to me. Again, you ride with the hot goalie in the playoffs, and we'll talk about a team in a minute that still may have some goaltending issues.
Yeah. And that is certainly... wait, what team do you think still has goaltending issues?
Edmonton.
Oh, okay. Well, that goes without saying. I wanted to make sure. I'm just making sure.
I'm just comparing teams of destiny. I'm going to take the guy who's got the red hot goalie over the guy who's a journeyman mixed with a guy who can't stop getting benched.
But you know what? That's why I'm talking about the team of destiny. The journeyman Oilers. I mean, look, this is the 5th comeback in this postseason for the Oilers. They've only won 5 games in the postseason. And they've now done it in comeback fashion.
Funny.
I mean,
I didn't think about that. I mean, that's funny.
I mean, that's wild. Every win they've had in this postseason has been a comeback win with Pickard and net, and I mean, it's pretty remarkable stuff. Against a heavily favored Golden Knights team. They're able to come from behind, win that game 4-2. Here in Las Vegas, where we do the show from, on Tuesday night. And I saw fans, because I was right outside. I was right around the corner from the arena last night. And fans were walking around, and they looked like they were in a trance. They looked like they were in a daze walking around after that game. They looked shocked with the outcome of that game.
That was the most impressive thing to me about this Oilers team in this game, Jason, was the Golden Knights really gave up this game with about 2 minutes to go in the first period. I know the score may not reflect it, the box score may not reflect it, no goals in the second period. Well, guess what? The Edmonton Oilers put almost 20 shots on net in the second period. The only reason that they didn't score a goal, the Edmonton offense was prolific. It's just that Calvin Pickard stood on his freaking head in the second period, and he couldn't do it for the other two. Vegas had a 2-goal lead in this game. And then Edmonton comes back and scores 4 unanswered. It's incredible what their offense can do. And it's incredible how they can maintain that momentum. Again, after their first goal, or not even after, leading up to their first goal for a couple of minutes, it felt like the ice was tilted in their favor and Vegas could do nothing about it the entire rest of the game.
Yeah. And look, I mean, people are going to continue to question Pickard in as long as this postseason continues. But at some point, we're going to have to accept that maybe he's just good enough. As long as his team, and it almost feels like in the case of Edmonton. Last point on this, because there is some one last piece of news I want to get to from hockey. It does feel like they're just taking this sort of win the next game. Just get through the next game. That's this sort of mentality this team has adopted. There is other news from the world of hockey, and it concerns the team in Utah. That was the Utah Hockey Club this year. They have a name, Sam Yarnell. They are the Mammoth. The Utah
their logo rocks.
The Utah Mammoth. I'm going to go out and get myself a jersey because it is a very cool logo. The Utah Mammoth. After 850,000 ballots cast by fans in multiple rounds of voting, that will be the name of the NHL team playing in Salt Lake City. All right, we're coming back. Some baseball I want to get to because it's a day ending in Y. Next. Welcome back to the show. Odds and Ends wraps it up in 10 minutes. Some more news from the NFL to get to in there. Sam Yarnell. It's a day ending in Y, which means we could always talk baseball. David Aardsma will be with us on Thursday's show in his weekly MLB spot. The former big league reliever hangs out with us on the program. So let's whip around a little bit. And before we get to what I really want to talk about, how about the Yankees? 10-run inning, snapping a 3-game skid with a win against the Padres last night. Aaron Judge's league-tying 12th home run of the season. A 10-run inning for the Bombers in this game in the 7th. This game was 2-2. I was walking around MGM Grand last night. Was it MGM Grand? Yeah, it was MGM Grand, Planet Hollywood, and down around the Strip. And the game was 2-2, and I'm like, Yankees are going to figure out a way to lose again. Just keep Devin Williams out of the game. Just keep Devin Williams out of the game, and we'll be okay. And then the Yankees explode for 10 runs. Austin Wells with a grand slam is part of that, and the Yankees go on to beat the Padres. But that isn't what I really want to talk about. I just wanted to get it in because I like seeing Sam's face every time I say Yankees, Yankees. The eye roll that I get from Sam when I say Yankees.
The 5th best team in the American League.
The Yankees. What I really actually wanted to talk about was the fact that we're on the verge of something going extinct in baseball. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are on the verge of extinction when it comes to two of the milestones that always made for immortality in baseball. 500 home runs. God, I feel like Brian Kenny doing like MLB Now or whatever, the show he does every day at noon Eastern. We're on the verge of extinction when it comes to 300 wins for pitchers and 500 home runs for hitters. And when it comes to 500 home runs for hitters, real quick, Nelson Cruz was the closest at 464. Obviously, that's not going to happen. Giancarlo Stanton was a guy that had the opportunity to do it, and I still think does if he winds up finishing out his career and doesn't continue to deal with these injuries that have sort of piled up. How many does Stanton have? Let me see. Stanton
429.
has 429. Stanton's got 429 right now, which certainly puts him.
He's 35 years old.
Yeah. Oh, he could. If look, it's just a question
if
he wants to hang around.
He'd have to play until he's 40. If he plays until he's 40, he'll do it.
You're telling me it's going to take him 5 years to hit 70 home runs?
Well,
Sammy hit 27 last year in 114 games.
Sure, you're going to get a max of 50 games out of him this year. So like 10, right? So now he's 36. I think 20 home runs a year is about a good pace.
3 years. I think he could do it in 3. I think he could, if he plays 110 to 120 games a year, I think he could do it in. I still think he could do it in 3. I still think he's going to get there. But the question is, I don't think he'll be the last to get there. I think Judge might be, though. I think Aaron Judge could be the last to get there. Far more extinct than that, though. We'll move away from that for a second, because I think the one that's far more extinct is going to be pitchers. Is going to be guys getting to 300 wins, and that's where I get to Justin Verlander, who pitched last night and has actually pitched pretty well over his last few starts. He's 0-2 with a 4.5 ERA, 42 innings on the season. He's made 8 starts. Coming off an injury-riddled, season last year. But last night for the Giants, 5 innings, 3 earned, and Justin Verlander at this stage in his career, you wonder, is he going to get there? Is he? And if he does, is he the last? Of that dying breed that gets to 300 wins, Sam, because after that, we went and looked down the list. There isn't anybody who's going to get to 300 wins after Justin Verlander. Max Scherzer is, maybe. But Scherzer was about the only other guy that we looked at that maybe had a possibility to get there. Right. Scherzer's at 216. That's about it.
Yeah, so I don't think anyone will. I don't think that, either of them really have a chance to get
Verlander's
to 300
at 262.
wins.
262.
Yeah.
He needs 20.
Right. Is he going to have 2 more 20-win seasons or 3 more 15-win seasons? I doubt it. Here's the thing. What I hope comes out of that is the death of the wins are a pitcher stat. I hope we just stop considering wins an actual pitcher stat. Great example for this. Look at your MLB leaders right now. Guy in second place in wins in Major League Baseball. Jorge Lopez pitching to a 5-0 record. You'd think, oh, wow, he must be good, right? Nope. 5.68 ERA. I know. I watch him all the time. It's not good. Wins are a horrible stat to use if you're judging literally anything about a pitcher who pitched after the year 1918. To the home run thing.
No, come on, it wasn't that bad. I mean, in the 80s, it's still mattered.
No. Unless you were throwing 8 or 9 innings, guaranteed wins should not count towards pitching stats. Look at Jacob deGrom's career record. All right, back to the home run thing.
Yeah.
I actually do think there are guys who will reach 500 homers. Look at, namely, Machado's going to be interesting. He could get close to it. Harper, I think, probably will get there. You're talking about guys like Mookie Betts and Matt Olson are like fringe to me, but those guys, all 4 of those guys are going to be pretty close. And don't forget about Juan Soto, obviously, because he's just going to play forever.
Yep, in a Mets uniform, ladies and gentlemen. Wins mattered in the 80s, Sam Yarnell. We're coming back. All right, it's just about time to put the wraps on this baby. Oh, boy. So, a couple of things to remind you about. First of all, Sports Wrap with Jason Page, the podcast. If you have not checked it out yet, what are you waiting for? It is the show in an audio form. You can go and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Go and check it out today. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon, anywhere you get a podcast, you can listen to this show. You can also watch the show on Spotify every day as well. Every day except yesterday because somebody forgot to upload the podcast. How does that happen? We are a top-notch operation. Also, make sure to go and what was that, Sam? What was that?
There were fans reaching out to me saying, "Hey,
where's the podcast?" Yeah.
It's Tuesday afternoon. I'm looking for my afternoon sports wrap. I was going to watch it on the way home from work. What's going on?
There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Elsewhere, there is the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. You can watch this show every day over on YouTube. Well, except for yesterday because we didn't upload the show. You could also get Sports Wrap shorts clips from the show. We just basically did an entire segment on baseball that you didn't even get to see here on television.
And that one on basketball.
About 1984 and 1985, where we were talking about who won the Cy Young. In 1984, for example, did you know that... Wait, we should tell people
Here we go
this.
again.
In 1984, 2 closers finished 1 and 2 for the Cy Young Award. You got to go and check out SportsWrap Shorts. You will see the video there. That is called a tease over on our YouTube channel, SportsWrap with Jason Page. All right, without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, time for some odds. And ends. Odds and ends, Sam Yarnell. It's the end for Gabe Davis. The Jaguars releasing the wide receiver. They will absorb a $20.3 million dead cap hit. How do you know you really stink when a team says we're letting you go and we're going to absorb $20 million, Sam Yarnell?
Well, now you're going to make me go and pull it up, but I do think the Jaguars did just do all right in the pass catchers department with Travis Hunter on a pretty cheap deal. And I think they may have drafted another wide receiver. It's right here. No, 2 running backs, including the Tootin guy out of Virginia Tech, who I really liked. Here's the deal, right? This was clearly a cap casualty when it comes to Gabe Davis. The Jaguars, though, man, they're still an organization that confuses me. And I know they've got this young GM and this young forward-thinking, analytical guy who legitimately looks like he's younger than I am.
That's young.
And Liam Cohen, who after like triple backstabbing people somehow ended up as the Jaguars head coach. My opinions on the Jaguars have not changed, and I don't think it's this regime issue as much as it's a general franchise curse.
Curse.
That they're doomed. Like, they're doomed. Something's
Trevor
gonna go
Lawrence.
wrong, and then 3 more things will go wrong, and next thing you know, they'll be picking in the top 5 again next year.
How old is Gabe Davis? Not even sure. 163 catches, 2,730 yards, 27 touchdowns in 4 seasons with the Bills. Before he signed with the Jaguars, had 20 catches for 239 yards, 2 touchdowns in 10 games in 2024 before he suffered a torn meniscus. They do have Brian Thomas Jr. So yes. Not good news for the Maple Leafs, or is it good news for the Maple Leafs? I'll say it's not good news for the Maple Leafs when it comes to their goalie situation. Anthony Stolar's out for Game 2 against the Panthers after receiving an elbow from Sam Bennett in the opener. We talked about it on yesterday's show. Craig Berube announcing he will not play after he did not participate in the morning skate, Sam Yarnell.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of mentioned this with Dennis yesterday, but like, not only is this a problem for the Leafs, it's a problem for the league, just because of how that whole situation played out and the way that he took the puck off the face. And I think a lot of people still think that may be what originally caused like the first concussion. And then obviously the puking on the bench and still no one getting him out of the game. It's becoming a bad look for the NHL. I don't think that it's really going to be as big of a story as it probably should be. But at the end of the day, glad that he's at least, finally getting the help he needs.
Absolutely. Sam Yarnell, because it is odds and ends, Sam Yarnell has a proclamation he would like to make in the odds department. Go ahead, Sam. I will just sit here and scoff.
Well, here's the thing. My NBA bets are so good that Jason decided to keep me out of the NBA segment today for some reason, because he knew that my takes would just be flying off the wall and they'd all be correct as they always were, because who knows sports better than Sam Y, the sports guy? Absolutely nobody. But if you go on your little FanDuel Sportsbook app and you go over to the East Playoff Series tab and you scroll your way down, you'll find yourself seeing the Indiana Pacers favored over the Cleveland Cavaliers to win this second round series. Now, we all understand that that's objectively crazy when you're talking about a team that just barely won a game against a team that didn't have the Defensive Player of the Year, along with two of 3 of their other mainstay stars. I'm not going to worry about the money line because for the sake of this exercise, I like to insure myself. So we're going to go Cleveland Cavaliers plus 1.5 at plus 102. We're getting plus money on it, Jason. It's a plus money peach. We love that, and we love the Cavs. They're going to beat the Pacers in this one.
So you say Cavs plus a game and a half. So you think it's going 7 is what you're saying?
At worst.
Ladies and gentlemen, the opinions of Sam Yarnell, ... That's all I'm going to say. Don't bet the mortgage on it. That's all I'm going to say. If that series makes it to 6, I'd be shocked.
You're right. Me too. Cavs in 6.
Oh, my God. We got to go. David Ardsma on the show tomorrow. Look at that smile. He's happy to watch you lose your money. We'll see you all tomorrow.